Imagine just sitting in your car for 40 straight minutes.
Oh, man. That's a long time.
Right. You have a passenger with you. Maybe you're like passing the time laughing or just scrolling through your phone on TikTok or whatever. But outside, the clock is just ticking.
And you're literally just there to pick up a pizza.
Exactly. But what you don't know is that just a few feet away, separated by, just a pane of glass and a brick wall, there's a guy standing at a counter.
And he's not just standing there doing nothing.
No, he is actively watching a digital monitor that shows your exact location. Like he sees your little icon sitting right there in the parking lot.
Wow.
Yeah, and he even walks past your car multiple times. He knows the pizza has been sitting under a heat lamp for basically an hour, getting cold and, well, dropping inequality.
Which ruins the food.
Totally. And yet, he actively, consciously refuses to walk 10 steps, tap on your car window, and just tell you the food is ready.
It's wild. It sounds so incredibly petty on the surface.
It really does.
But honestly, it actually serves as this perfect microscopic pressure cooker for the entire modern gig economy.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we are looking at a complete breakdown of the social contract here, all mediated entirely by these little screens we carry around in our pockets.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're getting into today. So welcome to another custom-tailored deep dive designed specifically for you.
Glad to be here.
And I gotta warn you, the source material we're unpacking today is not like some polished documentary.
Far from it.
Yeah, it's an incredibly raw, unfiltered audio recording ripped straight from an internet voice lounge or maybe a live stream. We're not totally sure.
It's chaotic.
So chaotic. Our mission today is to mine this digital artifact. On the surface, it basically sounds like the audio equivalent of walking through a crowded cafeteria where everyone is just screaming over each other.
Right, bouncing wildly between totally unrelated topics.
Yeah, but when you slow it down and apply, a lens of behavioral psychology to these interactions, it offers this vivid, sometimes really disturbing window into modern digital life.
It really does.
We arrive at the main event of this deep dive.
The pizza incident.
The pizza incident. What follows is an hour-long, relentless, deafeningly loud argument about a DoorDash delivery.
And, it is so easy to dismiss this as mere internet drama. Like, who cares, right?
Right, it sounds ridiculous.
But if we apply a sociological framework to this screaming match, we actually find a perfect case study in the alienation of labor and the breakdown of human empathy caused by algorithmic management.
Okay, let's establish the spatial reality and the characters involved here because the physical geography of this dispute is super crucial.
We definitely need to map this out.
We have two main voices dominating the channel. First is Roy. Roy is an employee at a local pizza establishment. His job involves prepping food inside, but he also uses his personal vehicle to handle the store's internal deliveries.
Guess who wears a couple of hats?
Right. And our second voice is Flex. Flex seems to be a veteran gig economy driver, intimately familiar with the mechanics of delivery apps. Flex assumes the role of the prosecutor here, just relentlessly interrogating Roy's actions.
And the inciting incident is a single pizza order that the store's internal logistics basically cannot accommodate.
Yeah, Roy explains that the store is slammed. He personally has 2 deliveries routed in one direction. This specific pizza order is destined for the complete opposite side of town.
Which is inefficient for him to take.
Exactly. So to maintain efficiency, the pizza shop's computer system bounces this isolated order out to the DoorDash network.
This is our first real glimpse into algorithmic management. The store's internal system interacts with the third-party delivery app without any human intervention.
It's all automated.
Yep. But the economics of this specific order become an immediate point of contention.
Oh, yeah. Flex immediately hones in on the financial incentive, or lack thereof. He accuses Roy of offloading a quote-unquote non-tipping order onto the gig network.
Which is a huge deal for drivers.
Massive. In the parlance of delivery drivers, a non-tip order is a financial liability. Drivers are independent contractors responsible for their own gas and vehicle wear and tear. A zero-tip order often means the driver is essentially paying their own money just to deliver the food.
But Roy defensively corrects the record, right? Yep. He specifies that the tip was exactly $3.70.
Yeah, $3.70.
But Flex counters that a $3.70 tip on a delivery going in the opposite direction is functionally a non-tip order.
Right, it's just not enough to cover the time and distance.
Exactly. It will likely be rejected by dozens of drivers, bouncing around the algorithm until the base pay is artificially inflated by the app or until some desperately inexperienced driver accepts it.
And eventually someone does accept it. A female DoorDash driver pulls into the parking lot of the pizza establishment, but she breaks the expected physical protocol. She doesn't walk through the front door.
Right, she remains in her vehicle, and according to Roy's narrative, she sits there for 40 minutes.
40 minutes. Let's just pause and think about the behavioral economics of that wait. Minute 1 to 5, you probably assume the food is just being boxed up.
Sure, that's normal.
Minute 10, you might be slightly annoyed. But by minute 20, the sunk cost fallacy has completely taken over her brain.
Oh, absolutely. She has already invested too much time to cancel the order without penalty.
Exactly. So she sits there, trapped by her own initial investment. Roy claims she has a passenger in the car, and he can see them through the window, just giggling and goofing off.
Meanwhile, inside the building, the pizza is sitting under a heat lamp, steadily degrading in quality.
Getting cold and rubbery.
Yeah. And this is where the physical layout of the environment becomes the crux of the moral debate.
Right, because Roy isn't chained to a cash register in the back of the store. His duties require him to constantly transition between the interior of the shop and the parking lot to load his own deliveries.
He's moving back and forth constantly.
He states on the record that he parked his car directly next to the DoorDash driver. He walked past her vehicle multiple times.
And beyond the physical proximity, Roy possesses absolute digital awareness.
He knows exactly who she is.
Right. Inside the store, there is a dispatch monitor. He can see the digital representation of the driver, a little icon sitting motionless on a map directly outside his door.
So we literally have a scenario where two human beings are separated by perhaps 3 feet of space. One possesses the item, the other is waiting for the item, and yet for 40 minutes, Roy actively chooses silence.
It's stubbornness on another level.
He never knocks on her window. He never gives a friendly wave. He refuses to take the 20 seconds required to say, "Hey, your order is ready."
The climax of this standoff occurs when the driver finally enters the store and retrieves the order. But Roy's reaction is entirely punitive.
Oh, he goes full dictator mode.
He accesses his computer terminal and executes a permanent ban, preventing this specific driver from ever receiving another dispatch from that store.
And Roy delivers this final petty detail with complete satisfaction. He claims that after receiving the food and the invisible digital ban, the driver walked back to her car and sat for another 10 minutes before finally pulling out of the parking lot to deliver the cold pizza.
He just loves that detail.
He presents this as undeniable proof of her incompetence, validating his decision to ban her.
This is the factual foundation of the whole argument. When Flex hears this sequence of events, he launches a philosophical war against the concept of not my job.
Yes, the not my job defense. Let's dig into that.
We need to deeply analyze Roy's defense because it exposes the psychological distancing created by user interfaces and app design.
Roy's entire defense rests on this impenetrable wall of job descriptions. Throughout the recording, he repeats the same mantras: I'm not her babysitter, I'm not her bee, it is not my responsibility.
He has outsourced his human empathy entirely to the application. He views the DoorDash application as an infallible, omniscient middleman. In the designated workflow, when a restaurant employee marks an order as ready on their tablet, a push notification is automatically transmitted to the driver's smartphone.
Right, it pings them.
And Roy believes that this digital automation absolves him of any physical, interpersonal responsibility.
I think the analogy here is that Roy is treating the app like a piece of digital soundproof glass. He's standing there looking at another human being, but because the software exists between them, he feels perfectly justified in ignoring her reality.
Yes.
He insists that because she is legally classified as an independent contractor, the sole burden of verifying the order status falls entirely on her shoulders.
Well, Flex attempts to introduce the reality of technological friction here. He points out that software is inherently flawed.
Apps glitch all the time.
Exactly. Perhaps the driver's interface displayed a drastically different estimated pickup time than Roy's monitor. Perhaps the fact that the order carried a marginal $3.70 tip caused it to be routed and rerouted through the system, creating a desynchronization in the app's timing algorithm.
Flex is arguing that you just cannot know what reality the other person's screen is dictating. But Roy is completely immovable. To Roy, if the app fails, or if the driver fails to obey the app, that failure is cordoned off.
It's not his problem.
Right. It is not his problem to solve, even if the solution takes 20 seconds.
This stubbornness reveals a phenomenon known as the alienation of labor.
Oh, that's a great term. What does that mean exactly?
Well, Roy doesn't view the creation and delivery of the pizza as a holistic, collaborative process aimed at feeding a customer. He views his labor as a hyper-segmented checklist.
Check, check, check.
Right. He made the pizza, he pressed the button on the tablet, his segment of the labor is complete. The fate of the pizza beyond that button press is totally irrelevant to him.
But that detachment directly contradicts the way Roy talks about the store. This leads to one of the most fascinating psychological clashes in the audio. Roy exhibits massive territorial pride.
Oh, he really does.
He repeatedly refers to the physical space as my store. He says things like, I don't want those people coming back to my store, and it's called taking care of my business.
And Flex immediately identifies this contradiction.
Yeah.
He attacks the discrepancy between Roy's perceived authority and his actual employment status. Flex reminds him, quite aggressively, you work there, you don't own it.
Flex completely dismantles him on this. He points out that Roy is just role-playing as a proprietor. Roy actually has to backtrack and defend his semantics, claiming, saying it's my store doesn't mean I have to own it. I work at this store, so it's my store.
Consider the selective nature of this ownership, though. When it comes to exerting power, when it comes to policing the parking lot, judging the driver's behavior, and utilizing the computer system to execute a ban, Roy eagerly adopts the mantle of an owner.
He loves the power.
He weaponizes his access to the digital infrastructure to punish someone he views as an intruder.
But let's look at the flip side of that. When presented with the opportunity to take a tiny positive action like walking outside to hand off the food so his customer gets a hot meal, Roy instantly shrinks back into the identity of a powerless, low-wage employee.
Exactly. Suddenly the mantra becomes, I am not paid by DoorDash.
He prioritizes his ability to punish the driver over the actual quality of the product he claims to care so much about.
Flex attempts to break through this cognitive dissonance using a tactical hypothetical. We can call it the double standard test.
I love this part.
Knowing that Roy himself operates as a delivery driver for the store, Flex asks him directly, how many times have you ever sat your vehicle waiting for a restaurant employee to walk out and notify you the food is ready?
And Roy answers with total confidence, never. He claims he always takes the initiative to walk inside and check the status.
Flex acknowledges that, but then escalates the hypothetical to test the absolute limits of Roy's stubbornness. He targets the concept of authority. Flex asks, what if your actual boss, the owner of the store, explicitly instructed you to go outside and tell the driver the food was ready? Would you look your boss in the eye and say, I'm not DoorDash's babysitter?
And this is where the argument just transcends logic. Roy pauses, considers the question, and says, it's possible, yes.
Unbelievable.
He is so deeply entrenched in defending his inaction that he claims he would willingly face insubordination and potentially risk his own job just to maintain the boundary of, quote, not my job.
Which highlights a crucial dynamic of online arguments. In physical spaces, human beings naturally seek de-escalation and compromise.
Right, you don't want to fight in person.
Exactly. But in digital spaces, the presence of an audience forces participants into increasingly extreme, rigid postures. Admitting even a fraction of nuance feels indistinguishable from total defeat.
Which opens the door for Flex to abandon logic entirely and move into the moral pushback. Flex realizes that debating the terms of service is useless, so he launches a brutal, character-based assault on Roy's fundamental empathy.
The vocabulary Flex employs is highly specific to modern internet culture.
Oh, he unleashes a barrage of insults. He repeatedly labels Roy a Karen. He calls him a douche canoe. He calls his actions scummy, petty, and downright evil.
Analyzing the use of Karen here is quite revealing. Sociologically, the Karen archetype refers to someone who weaponizes minor authority or systemic privilege to enforce compliance, often demanding managerial intervention over trivial grievances.
That fits Roy perfectly.
It really does. Flex is diagnosing Roy with a strain of petty tyranny. He is accusing Roy of utilizing his microscopic sliver of systemic power, the ability to press the ban button on a tablet, to destroy another working-class person's livelihood, simply because she didn't conform to his unwritten behavioral expectations in the parking lot.
Flex paints an incredibly vivid, almost grotesque picture of Roy's internal state during those 40 minutes. He says, and I'm quoting here, "You were drooling at the monitor."
That's quite an image.
Right. Now, Flex clarifies that he's using a metaphor, but the psychological accusation is profound. He is suggesting that Roy wasn't just passively ignoring the driver, he was actively, gleefully anticipating her failure.
Waiting for her to mess up.
Exactly. He was watching the minutes tick by on the screen, salivating at the opportunity to exercise his punitive power.
Flix's core argument transcends the gig economy entirely, though. He is arguing for the preservation of baseline human courtesy.
Just basic decency.
Yeah, his thesis is that the biological reality of being a human being in a shared physical space should fundamentally override the digital protocols of an application.
Flex keeps asking this amazing question. Are you a human being or are you a robot programmed a certain way?
It's a really chilling question when you think about it.
It really is. Like, has the constant conditioning of these apps rewired our brains to the point where we require a push notification to trigger our empathy?
To force Roy to confront this lack of empathy, Flex constructs an extreme, almost farcical analogy. It is a rhetorical trap designed to establish a baseline of undeniable morality.
Oh, the falling snow analogy.
Yes, the falling snow.
Flex sets the scene. Imagine someone is standing outside on the sidewalk, positioned directly underneath a heavy, precarious load of snow, or a cluster of massive, sharp icicles that are clearly about to snap off and crush them.
Okay, picturing it.
Flex asks Roy, would you just stand there in silence and watch it happen, or would you use your voice and warn them?
It is an analogy modeled on the trolley problem, but with all the ethical ambiguity completely stripped away.
Because there's no downside to warning them.
Right. The effort required to shout a warning is zero. The cost of inaction is severe injury. It's a question designed to yield only one socially acceptable answer.
But Roy refuses to step into the trap. He refuses to concede a single millimeter of rhetorical ground. Instead of agreeing that he would warn the person, Roy just embraces the sociopathy of the scenario.
It's wild to listen to.
He counters by saying, well, hey, if they are that dumb and they can't see there's a bunch of snow ready to fall on them, then I guess life's a bee.
The rejection of the social contract is absolute. But he pushes the boundary even further into modern dystopia.
He does. He doesn't just say he'd let the ice crush them. He adds, I might even pull out my phone and videotape it for some content.
This exchange represents the absolute nadir of bad faith online argumentation. It demonstrates the exact mechanism of how digital discourse degrades.
People just double down.
Exactly. Rather than admit to a minor logical inconsistency that perhaps he should have just tapped on a car window, Roy willingly adopts the persona of a cartoonish villain.
He'd rather be evil than wrong.
Yeah, he would rather broadcast himself to a room full of listeners as a callous individual who films physical trauma for social media engagement than admit defeat to Flex.
It is wild. It sounds almost like a performance. And that realization brings us to the final, crucial layer of this deep dive. These two men aren't arguing in a vacuum. They are highly aware that they are performing in a digital coliseum.
The ecosystem of the online voice lounge fundamentally dictates the nature of the conflict. The audience is not passive. They act as a real-time jury.
You hear it constantly throughout the recording. Roy and Flex both regularly break away from arguing with each other to appeal to the chat.
Looking for backup?
Yeah, they drop names into the void, shouting for people like Bobby and GLM to weigh in. It's like they are desperately trying to drag third parties onto the stage to validate their reality. Roy says, we'll get some people in here and we'll see who's wrong. Flex demands that Bobby unmute his microphone and publicly declare how petty Roy is acting.
They are attempting to crowdsource their morality. And what is really fascinating is how the architecture of the stream actively encourages the escalation of the conflict.
Exactly. Right at the peak of the screaming match, a third voice suddenly announces, here we go. Live stream started. Flex actually challenges Roy to start an emergency live stream dedicated solely to this pizza argument. He commands him, don't privatize it afterwards.
They recognize that their organic conflict has commodity value. They are actively trying to memorialize a dispute over a $3.70 tip into permanent digital content. They're manufacturing entertainment out of their own toxic interactions.
But the ecosystem is really messy. It isn't a clean, linear debate. The strange, insular lore of this specific internet community constantly interrupts the flow.
Right, there are so many weird side quests.
So many. For example, right in the middle of a heated exchange about the legal definition of an independent contractor, someone abruptly derails the conversation to talk about a streamer named Jamie.
It is a bizarre, seemingly incomprehensible tangent that perfectly illustrates the nature of parasocial relationships in these spaces.
The speaker starts explaining that his relationship with Jamie is, quote, unique. He describes it as a personal test, comparing it to a school experiment. And then, out of nowhere, he casually remarks, "I would rather Jamie be a cute girl than a guy."
And the reaction from the rest of the room is one of just weary normalization. Another voice simply chimes in, "Now I think you guys understand a little bit more what their relationship is
I
about."
would get zero context.
None. There's no explanation provided to the outside listener. It is an inside joke, a piece of deep community lore dropped right into the middle of a debate about gig work ethics.
It is such a disorienting, unfiltered slice of the internet. You have grown men passionately, aggressively debating the sociological impact of app-based labor, and in the very next breath, they are conducting strange psychological loyalty tests on other streamers.
It's all happening at once.
It perfectly encapsulates the chaotic energy of the sources we are looking at.
But if we strip away the chaos, the memes and the insults, we're left with a profoundly important question. It is the question that unites the tattoo, the riot, and the pizza delivery.
And what's that?
Are we allowing our technology to distance us from our fundamental human obligations?
I think the answer is staring us right in the face. Look at the stated purpose of the DoorDash app. Look at the dispatch monitor. These tools were engineered by brilliant people to remove friction from our lives.
To make things smooth and easy.
Right. They were designed to eliminate the awkwardness of standing at a counter, of making eye contact, of having to ask, "Excuse me, is my order ready yet?"
But the eradication of friction resulted in the erection of a digital wall.
A huge wall.
We created a system where two human beings can be physically located mere inches apart, both working toward the exact same goal of delivering a meal, yet they refuse to acknowledge one another's existence because an algorithm hasn't granted them permission to speak.
The ultimate irony is that the technology designed to make the transaction perfectly efficient resulted in a 40-minute standoff, a stone-cold pizza, a customer who probably demanded a refund, and a worker who was permanently banned from a source of income.
A total system failure.
The system failed spectacularly because the humans inside it forgot how to be human.
We have outsourced our empathy to the user interface.
Hmm.
When Roy looked at his monitor, he didn't see a woman sitting in a car. He saw a data point.
Just a little dot on a map.
He saw a digital icon that was failing to update its status. It is remarkably easy to punish a data point.
So what does this all mean for us? We have traveled massive philosophical distances in this deep dive.
We really have.
And we finally landed in a microscopic, intensely petty examination of workplace ethics in a suburban parking lot. It is proof that the internet is the ultimate equalizer of human experience.
Everything is happening on the same level.
Exactly. You can find the most extreme, terrifying examples of physical survival broadcast on the exact same frequency as a stubborn, mundane argument about a cold pizza.
As we conclude this analysis, I want you, the listener, to carry a specific thought experiment with you into your week.
I love a good thought experiment. Let's hear it.
You've likely experienced the exhaustion of a long shift, the temptation to retreat behind your job description and declare a problem, quote, not your job.
We've all been there.
The next time you are moving through the physical world, whether you are interacting with a barista, waiting on a delivery driver, or standing at a checkout counter, pay attention to the digital layers between you.
Ask yourself, are you relying on the invisible rules of an operating system to dictate your empathy?
If the app on your phone glitches, if the push notification gets lost in the server, or if the digital monitor freezes, do you still remember how to bridge the gap?
That's the real test.
Have we allowed the frictionless convenience of our screens to atrophy our instinct to simply knock on the glass and say hello?
That is a mirror we all need to look into. Thank you for joining us on this custom-tailored deep dive. Keep critically examining the digital spaces you inhabit, keep questioning the systems that separate us, and always look for the fascinating human truths hidden inside the everyday noise.